In this video, I'm going to be chatting with ChatGPT about veganism and agreeganism. Let's get started. First, I'm just going to see if it knows what agreeganism is.
Yes, I am familiar with the term agregarian or agreeganism. Agregarian is a philosophy or lifestyle that advocates for minimizing harm to animals by abstaining from consuming or using animal products. This includes avoiding meat, dairy, eggs, honey, and other animal-derived products, as well as abstaining from products tested on animals or made from animal skins or fur. Agregarians believe that animals have inherent value and that using them for food, clothing, or other purposes is ethically wrong. They also argue that the animal agriculture industry is environmentally unsustainable and contributes to climate change, deforestation, and other ecological problems. Agregarian is often associated with veganism, but some agregarians may consume small amounts of animal products if they are obtained without harming animals, such as eggs from backyard chickens or honey from beekeepers who do not harm their bees.
So all of this text must all come from my website, where I talk about agreeganism. It looks like it's pretty much a mashup of this, because there isn't any other information about agreeganism anywhere. So I'm now going to ask it, what's the difference between a vegan and agreegan? Agreeganism is a term that I came up with and have built a website for it, in particular to create a bridge between a person becoming a full vegan and instead just being someone who agrees with vegans and for the most part lives like that.
Key terms vegan and agregarian are often used interchangeably, but there are some differences between the two. Veganism is a philosophy and lifestyle that seeks to exclude all forms of animal exploitation and cruelty, whether for food, clothing, entertainment, or any other purpose. Vegans avoid consuming or using any animal products, including meat, dairy, eggs, honey, and leather. They also avoid products tested on animals and products that contain animal-derived ingredients. Agregarian, on the other hand, is a philosophy that seeks to minimize harm to animals by avoiding the consumption or use of animal products, but allows for some exceptions under certain circumstances. Agregarians may consume small amounts of animal products if they are obtained without harming animals, such as eggs from backyard chickens or honey from beekeepers who do not harm their bees. In summary, the main difference between veganism and agregarian is that vegans completely avoid consuming or using any animal products, while agregarians seek to minimize harm to animals but may make some exceptions under certain circumstances.
So it used this term wrong. It's come up with its own term. Agreeganism would be the correct term. So is agreeganism ethically correct is the question. You saw when I did a search for agregarianism, which is a term it used, it's a different definition. So it comes similar to utilitarian. So if I ask the question, is agreeganism ethically correct? It still goes back to agregarianism, which is interesting. Maybe I don't know what that would be, and it's technically wrong.
Agregarian, like any ethical philosophy or lifestyle, is subject to debate and differing opinions. However, proponents of agregarian argue that it is an ethically correct choice because it seeks to minimize harm to animals and avoid contributing to the animal agriculture industry, which is associated with animal cruelty, environmental destruction, and human health problems. Agregarians argue that animals have inherent value and should not be treated as commodities or used for human purposes. By avoiding the consumption or use of animal products, they aim to reduce the demand for animal agriculture and promote a more compassionate and sustainable way of living. However, opponents of agregarian may argue that it is not necessary or practical for everyone to adopt this lifestyle, or that it may not be the most effective way to address animal welfare or environmental issues. Some people may also argue that it is not ethically wrong to consume or use animal products, as long as they are obtained in a humane and sustainable way. Ultimately, whether or not agregarian is ethically correct is a matter of personal belief and perspective. It is up to individuals to evaluate the arguments and evidence for and against this philosophy and decide for themselves whether it aligns with their ethical principles and values.
It's technically correct. It is an ethical and personal judgment call, in the same way that a lot of the things that we deem illegal are ethical and judgment calls. Stealing, murder, going to war are all ethical and judgment calls. In some cases, you might be able to say it's the right thing to do, but there's clearly negative sides to it. So now I've asked it the question, would the world benefit if more people became
There are several
vegan,
ways in
and
which
what
the world
ways?
could benefit if more people became agregarians. Animal welfare. By reducing demand for animal products, agregarians can help reduce the number of animals that are raised and slaughtered for food, clothing, and other purposes. This can help improve the welfare of animals by reducing their exposure to cruelty, stress, and inhumane treatment. Environmental sustainability. Animal agriculture is a major contributor to deforestation, greenhouse gas emissions, water pollution, and other environmental problems. By reducing demand for animal products, agregarians can help reduce the environmental footprint of the agriculture industry and promote a more sustainable way of living. Human health. The overconsumption of animal products is associated with a range of health problems, including heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. By adopting a plant-based diet, agregarians can improve their own health and help reduce the burden of chronic disease on society. Food security. Animal agriculture requires large amounts of land, water, and other resources to produce, which can compete with other uses such as food crops. By reducing demand for animal products, agregarians can help free up resources for food production and improve food security for people who are currently food insecure. Overall, if more people became agregarians, the world could benefit from improved animal welfare, environmental sustainability, human health, and food security. However, it is important to recognize that individual choices alone may not be sufficient to address these complex issues, and that systemic changes at the policy, industry, and societal levels may also be necessary.
Now I'm going to ask, are there downsides to agreeganism?
While agregarian has its benefits, there are also some potential downsides or challenges to consider. Nutritional deficiencies. A plant-based diet can be a healthy and nutritious choice, but it may also be challenging to get all of the necessary nutrients without consuming animal products. For example, it can be difficult to get enough vitamin B12, iron, and omega-3 fatty acids on a strictly plant-based diet, and some people may need to take supplements or carefully plan their meals to ensure they are getting all the necessary nutrients.
This is true. I use a product called Complement, and it solves this. It does take some research and understanding on nutrition, and this is information you should know no matter what, whether you're eating animal products or not. You should know that there are certain vitamins and minerals that you should be getting in your food, and that there are risks to choosing a certain food diet that's maybe low in some of these nutrients. But what's so great about it is just a simple supplement can solve this, including having the B12 that's needed and the omega-3s all within this one supplement. So no matter what diet you choose, there's some basic nutritional information you need to study. It's pretty simple overall. I mean, all of this you can go deeper and deeper into nutrients and work it out. But even if you did argue that animal products provide B12 and some other omega-3 combinations that are healthy, you have to take into account that animal products also have such high levels of saturated fat and cholesterol that they come with negative side effects. So even if it's not the best source of nutrients. Of course, if you're living for survival, always go for the survival option. But if you're middle-class American and you're able to choose food from a grocery store, then we now have the power to choose higher nutrition food that has the nutrients that we need in it.
Social isolation. Agregarians may feel socially isolated or excluded from certain social activities, such as dining out or attending family gatherings where animal products are served. This can be a challenge for some people and may require extra effort to find like-minded friends and build a supportive community.
That's absolutely true. One of the great things about Agreegans is that they can build into their own Agreegan lifestyle diet the choice to eat animal products when it's served in a social setting. This reduces this social isolation concept. If you eat a couple animal products, every so often, that could be justifiable in order to live a life that's in alignment with the values and just break the rules in order to make life a more balanced and holistic view, as in our socializing is really important for humans and fitting in and fitting in with our family. So I, for one, do eat some animal products at family functions. Less, I try to reduce it, and I make a stand about why. I'm really vocal and clear about my stance on everything and being an Agreegan. And this highlights one of the main strengths. If you're vegan, you cannot eat animal products. You have to go hungry. You have to socially suffer a little bit. And that's an admirable thing to do. It's a powerful thing to do. But it is one of the downsides that Agreeganism solves. And it's saying that we can have exceptions. We don't have to be extraordinarily strict. And so that's one of the great advantages of Agreeganism.
Availability and affordability. Plant-based foods can be more expensive and less widely available than animal products in some parts of the world. This can make it difficult for people with limited resources or living in food deserts to adopt a plant-based diet or find affordable agrarian-friendly products.
It's also true, and another reason why Agreeganism, it has a flexibility to it. If you need to eat food and the only food available is an animal product, then it's okay to be an Agreegan and eat that animal product. And also, if you were traveling on vacation and you went to a restaurant and all they served was a certain kind of animal product, Agreeganism allows for that. So it is true that in order to eat a healthy diet, a specific diet with certain guidelines, it takes a little extra effort and maybe not as easy and sometimes more expensive, but ultimately plant-based food is less expensive. I buy black beans and lentils and quinoa in bags at the store that I cook up and with some vegetables. It's pretty inexpensive. But if you go to a restaurant, and sometimes the vegan option can be more expensive because for different reasons, vegan products are relatively new to the market and they're still being adopted and figured out which ones work and which ones don't. So that can bring a cost involved, of which I like to pay into. I'm okay with paying a little more sometimes for vegan products because I believe it's the right way to go as a society, and I want to support it and vote with my dollars.
Cultural and religious considerations. Some cultures and religions have long-standing traditions and beliefs around the consumption of animal products, which can make it challenging for individuals to adopt an agrarian lifestyle without conflicting with their cultural or religious values.
In the 21st century, I feel like it's less of a problem, but I do believe it applies back into the social situation. Most religions don't dictate too much about food, and if anything, they should direct people to a healthier, vegetarian, compassionate diet. And especially now that things have changed in the 21st century, and animal agriculture is a spiritual atrocity. So most cultures and religions that are modernized will be plant-based for that reason.
Stigma and criticism. Agrarians may face criticism, stigma, or judgment from others who do not understand or agree with their lifestyle choice. This can be emotionally challenging and may require a strong sense of conviction and resilience to overcome.
This is also true and applies to the social point from earlier, but I would consider this one a strength instead of a weakness. Imagine 100 years ago and being anti-slavery in the South where people own slaves. Some people might be angry with you or judge you for being anti-slavery, but ultimately it's the right stance to be in. So ultimately that's the way to be, and if you stand up in what's right and and increase and be aware of what the consequences of your actions are, and stand in that awareness, that's a better way to live life. That makes you in a better position, even if you might receive some criticism from ignorant people or callous people or people who just don't understand the full consequences of what a diet surrounding meat causes. So it may be true that you get some criticism, but ultimately, Agreeganism is agreeing and understanding why veganism is so important today. And anytime that you're in the right, you should stand in that right with pride. And anytime anyone criticizes you for doing the right thing, it's an opportunity to be able to be a shining light. So, yeah, you know, it might be considered a downside, but this could also be considered a strength. An opportunity to stand in the side of the higher ethical stance, the healthier, the more holistic, the modern, in tune with the concept of animal products causing pandemics and disease spreading, and environmental destruction and water waste and pollution. All of these things that plague our modern society are directly influenced by decisions made in that moment. So if somebody's criticizing you for making the right decision and taking action on some of the awful situations that are happening in the world by making choices that are more in alignment with a world that doesn't have these problems, or a world that is more compassionate, cleaner, more expansive and open, and then that's just part of being a human in a world where we're all trying to do the best that we can.
Overall, while Agreegarian has many potential benefits, it is important to carefully consider the potential downsides and challenges before making a decision to adopt this lifestyle. It may also be helpful to seek out support and guidance from other Agreegarians or health professionals to ensure that you are able to meet your nutritional needs and maintain a healthy and sustainable lifestyle.
That's another really important point, is to gather with others who have the same belief, because part of this is really sharing this, vibing with others. And as we awaken as individuals in a broken world, we can work together and both, multiple people being aware of an injustice and to break free from the matrix is powerful. Which is why Agreeganism is a diet and a way of being. It's inclusive and it's open for people to come together on this topic. People who aren't willing to take the full step to veganism, which is admirable and honorable thing, as Agreegans have a lot of respect for vegans. But realistically, to just stand with an agreement with the philosophy and ideology of veganism is one of the most important things, because we all have the power to make that decision. We all have the ability to make the awareness of our actions having consequences. And that's one reason why this picture is so fitting for the Agreegan movement. On the left, we have these ideologies that are destructive and cause decay in many different ways. And these are old ways of being that no longer work. And even some philosophies and religions that have an infinite resource mentality, and there weren't industrial agriculture farms and death machines that we have today. But people have the same mindset as if farms had happy cows on it, which doesn't exist anymore to a degree, or if it does, I heard it's 1%, maybe 2% in some places, where wealthy people buy up farmland to have a happy farm, which are extremely rare. If you go to the store and buy meat, of course, it's coming from this mentality on the left, this treating life as a resource or a commodity and exploiting creatures that are vulnerable and need our protection. And then in the middle, there's this kind of moment where the person gets to decide, which side do you want to be on? Do you want to be a carnist, a person who just eats the food of an old mentality that causes environmental destruction and virus and super bacteria and an ethical atrocity and spiritual decay? Or do you want to have a vision for a world that's holistic, and plant-based and community-oriented, where animals aren't being exploited and people aren't being exploited. A world where people are taking a belief system into their lives and accepting that our actions do have consequences. And if we all work together, we can create a beautiful world. And what it really all comes down to is this question that this picture proposes. In this time of change that we live in, which side are you on? Is your mentality contributing to the side of the left, which is the destruction and the decay and the ignoring the consequences of our actions and just taking what we can and allowing the damage to be done? Or do we choose to be on the right side, to be the change we want to be, to accept responsibility for our actions, and to step into a world that's sustainable and capable of sustaining human life for a longer period of time for our children and our children's children? This is a decision and the power that we have as individuals. This is not a government choice. This is not a choice made by anyone outside of you. Now that you know this information and your attention is on it, you have the choice right now to say, yes, I am an agreegan. I am someone who agrees that on the right is a plant-based diet, a way in which we live in harmony with the world. And that it's okay to make a few exceptions. It's okay to eat a piece of cheese every so often. But to acknowledge and don't lie to ourselves about it, that does have a consequence. What we're striving for is a new way of being, a way of being where we can live in the 21st century and not be in denial and not sit in a room full of people who are consuming animal flesh and pretending that it has nothing to do with global warming and injustice and viruses and pandemics and disease and destruction and all of the consequences that come with it. It all comes down to that one question. Do you agree that we have the power to make a choice with our diet, whether we're contributing to the death and decay on the left of this image, or are we making choices that are in alignment with sustainability and a future that we can live in harmony with the earth? And that brings this episode to a close. Thanks for hanging in there with me on this. It's a really important topic, and I'm glad that we're taking the time to address it here and empower ourselves with knowledge and wisdom of many sources, including from ChatGPT.